There'd be a lot of poop in my pants. I've seen a 6-foot alligator go swinging through the air and slam into a tree.
These guys are the scientists of the supernatural, lecturers leaving lessons for inquiring laymen. They are applying the scientific method to a world that baffles science. They are the cryptids of the corn.
But who else has big black wings and red eyes?
Batman.
Mothman.
Oh yeah, Mothman.
A great white shark was stolen.
Oh, someone stole a shark?
I got stuff for you don't even know about.
She's a witch. She turned me into a newt.
Who knows? Anything could be possible. Anything could be possible.
It's really big abduction vibes.
Holy moly.
It sounds like you were abducted.
And it just stood up. I mean, it just like kept going and going. And she goes, what the?
Hello, and welcome back to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. I am the great and powerful Mystery.
And I am the infamous Jay today.
Ooh, and it's not just us today. Jay, who are we with?
We are joined today with our special guest, Brian from Sasquatch Odyssey. Welcome, Brian.
Woo!
What's up, fellas? Haven't seen y'all in a month of Sundays.
In a month of Sundays. No, thank you for coming on. Everybody at home doesn't realize, just like I slept in till right when like Brian was already in the little chat room, and then the broadcaster stopped working, and then I exited off of everything. And so he's been patient. It's been 15 minutes to try to get this rolling.
Very patient. I think you're still like...
I'm punch drunk.
Yeah, I think so.
Newborn.
But the green room is so nice. You guys had it set up with the colorful M&Ms like I like. You had the champagne. It's just, I've just been chilling, man, like VIP style. I love it.
We even took all the blue M&Ms out for you, just as you requested.
I'm glad that they sent that over as a prerequisite.
You ever heard that story?
One second.
I have.
Okay.
Who was that?
I forget who it was. I think it was the guy that it's not Aerosmith. The lead singer that literally sings the song "Dude Looks Like a Lady," but Steven Tyler. What band is that? I think it was that band.
The Steven Tyler band.
I can't remember what. It's not Aerosmith.
It's way too early.
Yeah, I know. My gears are still. The hamster wheel's still warming up.
I just don't know Steven Tyler looks like a lady.
Yeah, I know. That's he does kind of, yes.
Okay. Now, Brian, would you please do all the stuff and tell everybody where to find your stuff and all that good stuff? If you haven't heard of Sasquatch Odyssey by now and you are listening to us, I don't know what you did. Because you passed some big shows to get over here.
Right.
Yeah, Sasquatch Odyssey is everywhere you can find podcasts. Yeah, I do the Sasquatch Odyssey podcast. I do quite a few shows. We have the Paranormal World Productions Network has a ton of shows. We have the Sasquatch Odyssey, we have Paranormal Odyssey, True Crime Odyssey, and we've added a couple of more shows. We've got the guys from the Kentucky X-Files and the Basement Hangout just joined the family a couple of days ago. We made that announcement on the show. So we got a little bit of everything for everybody. We've got a full network of shows, but any of them you can find. YouTube, we've got a Sasquatch Odyssey YouTube page. That's really the only show. Paranormal Odyssey has its on YouTube as well, but primarily anywhere you get your audio podcast, anywhere you listen to the Cryptids of the Corn, you can find us. So
perfect.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, we met you in person in, was it North Carolina, right?
Yep.
North Carolina. And that was a lot of fun, but that was a hell of a drive for us.
Oh yeah, it was.
But yeah, what state are you out of? I don't know if we ever got to talk about that.
Yeah, I live in North Carolina. I was born and raised in Georgia, but we're in North Carolina.
Okay.
Now,
Oh, nice.
in Lenoir, the metropolis of Lenoir, North Carolina.
That sounds like the mega city of Ada, Ohio.
Yeah.
That's like a population. If we didn't have a college, would be like a population in like the double digits.
Well, not that low. Come on.
If the college disappeared?
Not
that's
double
all
digits. That's like your family and my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Enough to make the plastic factory in the bowling alley work.
I tell everybody we're near Boone, North Carolina, where Appalachian State is. Most people know where App State is.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we're about 40 minutes from there. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Careful.
no,
Careful.
sorry. Things are popping up. The screen was getting dark. Oh gosh. No, but yeah, thank you once again for coming on. Jay, you go ahead.
So just to get things started, I mean, we've noticed things on your social media and posts that have been going around lately, and we wanted to kind of bring up that topic. There's a photo going around recently of an alleged pair of Sasquatches. And I first seen it posted on your social media, and I think maybe Justin.
Yeah, that's where I seen it. Yeah, because I think the first one I seen was the one where you politely said like, "Hey guys, I've been sent this like 16 times or something like that," and I'm like, I get that. Like literally, people send us the same video. Like,
I mean, quite often.
It's nice. It's nice.
Yes.
It's like people don't realize it. Like, okay, you're the 32nd person in an hour to send this, but we appreciate it. But it's hard to respond to everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to ask you about, when evidence and photographic evidence is brought forward, and we get to see something that's pretty special, because pictures of Sasquatch are fairly rare, especially authentic ones. So this one that was posted to your social media, it's created quite a little bit of buzz, I'd say recently, but I think we have some opinions about it.
Yeah, I definitely do, man. When it first popped up, well, this guy sort of popped up on my radar a couple of years ago with some of the audio stuff that was being posted, and people were sending me that, and I just, I took a listen to it, and it was just ridiculous to me. It was almost laughable. So I just moved on and didn't really think about it. And then this picture kept popping up over the last, 6 or 7 days, and I think the first person I really saw talking about it was Steve Coles on his channel. Steve kind of did a little quick 4 or 5 minute breakdown, it was very simple and straightforward to me that this was not an authentic picture of any Sasquatch. It was a mask.
Screwy.
All right, and we're back. I don't know if I'll leave this in for the technical difficulties update, but the Rodecaster 2 Pro just died. So we're going back to Old Faithful. Hopefully you can still hear us and it's not the computer that's dying.
Yes, everything sounds good.
All right, so we were just starting to get into that thing, that mask that looked like 2 trash cans that was shoved together with some plexi tape. It just looked horrible. The mask looked awful.
What was it, like a mask from Party City?
Let me pull it up while you guys talk for a second, because it's just have you've seen it? Yeah, you've seen it.
Yeah, I saw it on our. Well, I don't know if you shared it.
I may have shared it to ours from his.
Yeah, but I remember when it first popped up, I was like, And then Brian, I believe I saw you change the brightness of it. You said, right?
Yeah, I lightened it up. It took 5 seconds to lighten it up on my iPhone, and it was even more apparent at that point that this was a mask. And so I went to the YouTube channel of the guy who shared it, and he did this video. And literally like 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the video, he's talking about how if you don't believe this is a Sasquatch, you're not enlightened, and you just don't understand, and blah, blah, blah. Typical hoaxer stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So then he says, and feel free, everybody go look, scour the internet. You're not going to find a mask like this, right? So that just, my cop brain went off, and I'm thinking, hey, if this is legit, why are we talking about looking on the internet for a mask and telling people they're not going to find it? Either A, you're very confident nobody's going to find a mask like this because it's a real Sasquatch, or that this mask was changed, altered, or you've done something to this to make it unique enough to where nobody's going to be able to just post a link to say, hey, here's the exact mask that this guy used, right? And then, when I posted it on, I plastered it in a lot of Bigfoot groups, right? I'm in probably 600 Bigfoot groups, and I just plastered it everywhere because I wanted the people to understand that this guy needs to be called to the carpet for what he's doing, right? So it's not my job to do that. I don't typically do that a lot. I famously have called Todd Standing out over and over and over the last couple of years, and to the point I'd get emails from my listeners saying, stop giving this guy, any credit at all on your show and talking about it. But I think it's important because Todd has a ton of followers. Mm-hmm. This guy has a ton of followers. He's got 71,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel that are eating this stuff up. And I go into the comments and look at the comments, and it's like, oh, please tell Neff that we said thank you for finally showing his face. And I'm like, are you delusional? Like, this is unbelievable. that these people are not only buying into this, but they're just worshiping at this guy's feet. And this is clearly crap. So yeah, he started commenting, and he got a little heated in his comments with me, saying, it's all real. You just don't understand it. You're not enlightened. You've never seen one, so you don't understand. And I was like, yeah, dude, I think you're 100% full of crap. Why don't you come on the show and let's talk about it? If you want to have a real conversation, let's not do it over Facebook comments. Come on the show and let's have a conversation about it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be the first to admit. I don't think I am, but if you can convince me otherwise, then I give you the platform to do it. And of course, it was immediately, you throwing out Todd Standing and inviting him on the show is just, you're just trying to bait me in, and I don't have time to talk to people who call me hoaxers. And I was like, well, you should probably make time, because there's a lot of people calling you hoaxers and calling you a hoaxer. And if you're not, then come on and defend your position. And of course, he's not going to do that because he can't control the narrative. So.
Right. There's a big difference between talking over Facebook messages and actually speaking in person. Big time difference.
Yeah, there's a lot of keyboard vigilantes, but when you want to get face to face, even through a computer screen, and have a conversation, they tend to go away. They're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, it's like people are too scared to get punched in the face anymore.
Well, I don't know if you can go that far.
Well, that's the computer. Like, people say everything they want through the computer.
Oh, then in person.
Yeah, then in person. That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, my brain is melting. But yeah, it's like all these. Like, there's I know a lot of people like that. They'll just say, they there's that safety net with it being on the internet. Like, I never have to leave this room, and I can tell everybody I've seen all of this stuff, and I can tell everybody this is how it works. And anybody tries to fight me, I can just block them and report them and call them bad names. And
well, like Brian said, controlling your narrative.
Controlling the narrative, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think this kind of does for the Sasquatch community, these kind of hoaxes?
Well, it's the same thing with everything. It sets us back because there are tons of people who believe that's real. So say somebody goes out tomorrow and gets a photograph of a real Sasquatch that's close up, like this guy's purporting this to be, and it doesn't look like that. Those people who are bought into that narrative are going to say, no, this guy's stuff is real. What you're presenting is not. And this is a fake, and it's not. It's kind of the same thing with the Todd Standing stuff. The best thing we had, in my opinion, was two things. We had the Patterson-Gimlin film in 1967, and we have the Paul Freeman footage from 1992. And those are pretty compelling in and of themselves, right? And people are still debating that. I'm speaking at a conference in Idaho in August. And me, Cliff Brackman, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, I think we've got some other people I don't want to say. We're still in the works of getting folks there, but we're going to have a little roundtable and talk about the Freeman footage, because it's still, even after all these years, we're talking about it. But you see that, and it's really good footage. And then fast forward into the early 2000s, I think it was, here's Todd Standing bursting on the scene, and he comes out with these videos that he's posting of HD quality, super high definition, zoomed in pictures of what he purports to be a Sasquatch. Now there's 100,000+ people on his YouTube channel seeing those. They're seeing this Discovering Bigfoot documentary. And then that becomes the new standard for anybody who's out there researching Sasquatch and bringing evidence forward. There are tons of pictures out there. There are tons of videos out there, I believe, that people have captured of these things that will never see the light of day because it's not HD quality, right? It doesn't look like what Todd's presenting as Sasquatch, and we'll never see it. So he set the precedent and the bar so high with a hoax, because I don't believe for a second those are real Sasquatch in any of those videos. I don't believe it at all. And of course, the first thing that happens with everybody when you talk about this stuff is prove the hoax. Prove it.
Yeah.
Where's the mask? Where's the link to the mask? And I'm like, dude, I'm on Facebook fighting with people. Way too much time. I'll admit I went down the rabbit hole, going toe to toe with this dude. I gave it way too much of my time, but I'm passionate about it because it sets everybody in this community who tries to do this seriously way back. But that's the thing that everybody comes up with. The people who buy it, and I say it all the time, people cringe, but they're drinking the Kool-Aid, right? They're drinking the Jim Jones Kool-Aid. There's always people out there who want the drink, right? And he's got these people hooked in hook, line, and sinker. And they're the ones coming out and defending him, saying, prove the hoax. If you can't prove the hoax by showing me the mask, then everything you're saying is true, or it is false.
Mm-hmm.
You can't prove it any more than he can prove that it's real. And I'm like, okay, if you can take a look at the totality of the evidence and you can look at the photograph and you can see the lightened version I did, there's other people that have done complete hour videos breaking this down, showing where these two photographs that we're talking about is actually supposed to be the same thing taken just seconds apart. That's the other part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
You see those two images together, but he claims that this Dwayne guy or whoever sent him the pictures took one, just stepped out of the back of his house for whatever reason and just decided to take this random photo of this random fence with a blanket and a shovel on it. And he takes a couple of pictures in sequence and he didn't notice anything. And then he looks back later and here they are. And he's had these photographs for 3 years. And just recently, the Sasquatch told him that he can post the pictures. It's okay for you to post my face now. It wasn't 3 years ago, but now all of a sudden I'm ready for my cameo. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Right.
Post my photographs. I think you might have wrote it on a chalkboard. I'm not really sure how that happened or got it televised. But so you got all this stuff going on. And if those people can look at that and look at the photograph and really study the nuances and there's missing artifacts that are there in one photograph, and then a second later the shovel's over here, the blanket's over here, the plug-in that was down here is no longer in the photograph. All these things, if you can look at that in totality and say, I believe that that's a real Sasquatch and I believe that he is 100% telling the truth and it's not a hoax, then there's no conversation to be had with you. There's nowhere to go with that.
Right, I agree, because it's just blindness with it. But no, I don't blame the Sasquatch for not wanting to have his picture shared there for a while. Do you see how ugly it was?
Yeah, no, the receding hairline is what got me.
Oh my
man.
gosh, the fur is like a straight, like it's almost like it's a big plastic piece shoved onto the front of a hoodie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not.
And again, I went down the rabbit hole and I searched for. There's probably 50 pages open in my browser looking for a mask that could have been altered enough to look like that. And I found some retro masks from way back in the day that were on eBay for like $80-$90 that were similar, that could have been altered. You know, some of them might have even been sprayed with some paint. I don't know how he did it. And frankly, I don't care.
Right.
It's just so obvious. Some things are so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody posted a really good comment that I've reused and sort of took. It's one of those things where if you have two dogs standing there and one of them's a Chihuahua and one of them's a Great Dane, do I really have to prove to you that the Chihuahua isn't a Great Dane, or is it just obvious looking at it? Right. Do we have to do the DNA of the dog to say that's a Chihuahua, that's a Great Dane, and this is a stuffed animal? No, you don't. You just have to be intellectually honest and say, I looked at that, it's clearly fake, and just move on. But people just seem to, they get stuck in the minutia of what they want to believe, and they buy into this guy. That's the other thing. I know him. He's so genuine. He's so caring. He's so sincere. Well, every hoaxer out there is. You have to be. They have to be just as passionate as I am on the other side of the fence about what I believe to be the right stance, and just wanting real stuff put out there. Let's have a real conversation. Let's be honest. Let's approach this use the scientific method and use some critical thinking. I'm passionate about that on that side. The hoaxers have to be 10 times more passionate to draw people in. How did people sell the snake oil back in the day?
Right.
They were very passionate about everything that it cured, right? It was completely 100% BS, but you're not going to buy it from them if they're not selling you on them first. And that's what hoaxers do. And he's very good at it. He's very sincere. I can watch those videos and say, wow, I can see why people buy into that. But then once you have something like a photograph, you know, the audio stuff is obviously, to me, it's laughable, but to a lot of people, they're like, I don't know what a Sasquatch sounds like. I've never heard one talk. So that could be a Sasquatch talking, right? And as sincere as he is, I see the buy-in. But when you have something that's physical evidence, it's tangible. It is a photograph that can be looked at. It's very simple. You can do it with your iPhone. Just lighten it up, and you see that that's not real. It is not a living, breathing creature of any kind. It is a static object. It is a inanimate object. It is a mask. To the point where it's not the arm that he says is laying up on the fence for his close-up. It's the freaking material that goes with the rest of the suit that's laying under the head of this mask. It's just laughable to me.
I do like to imagine, though, that one's just sitting there posing for the camera. Just one time, I want that actual authentic
Just
photo.
one time.
Yeah.
No, and it's like, I think why those people get so big is because there's so many people, more people than most people realize, that have had the flash encounter, that have had that one thing, and they see something that they can't explain one time, and then they go to people like that, and they see the showmanship, they see all that, and they're like, oh, okay, like, I don't feel as crazy because everybody else is seeing it. Like, they're common, they're out there, they're doing this, and I think that's why people that claim to see them constantly or have that kind of, content or whatever, that's why they get big like that. It's just because there's so many people. Like, you go to conferences, we go to conferences, and you have at least once a conference, some guy or some lady come in, they don't want to be there, and and they want confirmation that they're not insane for what they see in the woods or what they see on the side of the road at night, and then they leave. Like, literally, then they just go, and then eventually they go down the YouTube rabbit hole and they hit stuff like this, like, oh, okay, I'm fine. I only had the one little encounter. These people are seeing them every night, and they're giving them apples, and they're talking telepathically, and they're writing in my house.
And it's just so rare to get an actual, not just a photograph, but a video of, I mean, you got the Patterson Gimlin film, and then the film you guys are covering in Idaho. But, those are probably the two biggest ones, I would probably say. And they're still talked about today because you can analyze it as much as you want, and to disprove it is much harder. It's harder to do. And then there's hundreds of other ones out there that I think, are authentic, but they're little quick flashes of something.
See a hand, or you see this, or you just see something tiny. I mean, there's just some weird ones. You ever seen that one? This one I always actually never really asked anybody about, but there's one where you might know what I'm talking about. A guy, they're filming, it looks like a Sasquatch sitting kind of like on the side of this hill, all covered in leaves and like dead trees, and then it stands up and like throws a stone towards the camera. Have you ever seen that video?
I think I have, at least in part. I think I've seen what you're talking about.
And it's really quick, and it's hard for me. I feel like we've gotten a lot better at determining what is authentic since doing this, but that video still always stands out to me. Is if that is fake, I don't know how they did it. Because it's like a 5-foot long arm, and it throws. You can see the stone flying.
A sizable rock.
Yeah, like the size of the stone, the size of a rock.
The sizable rock.
Oh, a sizable rock. Okay, I was like, you really do have lack of sleep right now. But softball sized stone. But for anyone to have a costume or a suit that can actually grab a physical object and toss it with some decent accuracy, that's more impressive. Creating a suit like that than a actual authentic video. But I think that one may be authentic, but there's a bunch of those out there that maybe may not be, but it's up to the person, the viewer, to discern between the two. But like you said, you got to put your hat on, your cop hat, your investigator's hat, all your hats, like Daryl Sims taught us.
Yeah, and that's the thing that bothers me. There's still people, even to this day, it's funny, I don't get on social media as much as I used to, and I just don't have time to peruse through all the groups and stuff. But it's funny when you see that one person, like you said, who probably had some kind of experience, and they go down the rabbit hole, and they're trying to find some sort of validation for them experiencing what they experienced, and they run across like Todd Standing, right? And they're posting this link to these videos like nobody's ever seen it before, and they're like, oh my God, look what I found. It's this video of this, it's a close-up of what I saw. It's a Sasquatch. And then you're like, oh, it's a Todd Standing video. And I'm like, but those people are legitimately seeing this for the first time. That's what people don't understand. All of us know who Todd is. We all know who this Sasquatch Ontario dude is because he's been hoaxing for 10 years or whatever. But there are people out there who are coming into the subject literally every single day. and they're stumbling across this. And of course, when you Google it, it's been out there for so long in the zeitgeist, it's the first thing that pops up. So they immediately go to these hoaxer sites, and they're just enamored by what's happening. And they're lost forever in most cases, because they want to believe so bad, and there's so little real tangible video, photographs, and other evidence out there that they can really cling to say, yeah, that validates what I saw, right? Or that's validating what I experienced. So they latch onto that, and then it just becomes this. Then they tell 20 people, and 10 or 4, it just grows exponentially. Meanwhile, you have people out here busting their tail to try to bring real encounters to the forefront, real evidence from people who are experiencing these things. And they're the YouTube channels that have 400 subscribers, and they go out in the woods for 25 years and never they never get any traction. And it's just the hoaxers that rise to the top. Instead of the cream rising, it's the crap that rises to the top. And I do my very best on occasion to just scrape it away, because it irks me. And I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough to have a platform that people actually listen to, where I can say, believe what you want. This is my opinion on this. I think this dude is hoaxing, and maybe he's being hoaxed by somebody else. I don't know.
Right. You don't exactly. And I like the cream to the top and to the crap to the top analogy. Makes me laugh.
That's a t-shirt.
Yeah. I wonder, and I don't want to be all conspiratorial, but it does seem like the hoaxing videos more or less do get pushed or do get, in the algorithms.
You don't want to be conspiratorial?
I don't want to be, but I am. I am conspiratorial, because it's weird how that seems to work. I mean, sure, the Patterson-Gimlin film will pop up, but it's usually not even the first one still. It is like you said, those hoaxy.
I just typed in Bigfoot videos, and it wasn't even like the first 5.
And it's just odd. That is kind of odd to me. Is that on purpose? I don't know those answers to those questions, but it is strange. It's worth being noted, I'd say.
Well, I think what happens is, Jay, it's not necessarily, and I'm with you, I think there may be a there as far as the algorithms, and there may be something as far as a larger conspiracy for that kind of stuff, to just, if nothing else, just to keep it perpetuated and keep it going, because but Bigfoot makes money, for these YouTube and these other platforms. I think part of what the problem is you have, I completely lost my train of thought. I had something so important to say.
It happens.
But I know it did. That shit happens when you get old, man. It's like, oh God. But it's like you said with the videos not popping up, not being the first one. Pat, here's where I was going. Pat from Squatch Talk was on the show. It might have been last year. We did a show together. We've done quite a few. But Pat did a little experiment. He went out into an area in the woods near his house, and he randomly took pictures, just pictures of trees and leaves and sticks and whatever. It's pretty thick. I think it was during the summer last year when he did this, and he did it purposely. He was almost purposely taking pareidolia pictures for his experiment. And he goes into Squatch Talk, his group on Facebook, 900 or so members in the group, right? Not a huge reach, about the same subscribers on YouTube. And he puts red circles and draws red arrows around random things, just trees, nothing there other than trees. And he posts it and says nothing about Bigfoot. Bigfoot, Sasquatch was not there. It was these pictures that I took, and it's red circle pictures. I think in the first few days, that post reached 75 to 80,000 people on Facebook. Now, Pat has interviewed tons of people. He's had plenty of shows. I've been on his show. He's been doing this for 10 years, his show talking about Bigfoot, right?
Yeah.
Never has Pat had this kind of reach, ever. All it took for him to get that kind of play on Facebook and have that kind of reach in just a few days was to take random pictures, and the comments were flowing in. I see the Bigfoot. Oh my God, it's right there. Oh, I think that's a dog man. Oh, wow, that's crazy. I see it. It's right there. It's nothing. It's literally trees and leaves. But Pat did, I mean, he did a follow-up show and he's kind of, tongue in cheek, he's laughing about it. He's like, I never knew I had that kind of reach. All it took was a red circle squatch.
Yeah.
That I didn't even mention. He didn't even say that's what it was. All it took was the red circles. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it.
I wonder what that is. Like, I don't even understand why, but I get it because I've seen the red circle stuff all over the place.
Like saying, like, people just see it and they share it and they're like, I can see the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
I can see the Sasquatch. I can see the Sasquatch.
Oh, I do have to share. There's one guy on YouTube I follow, and I know, like, it's not, none of it's real, but he plays it off as it's being real. And every single one of his cover photos for his YouTube videos have the big red circles in them. But the best part is he'll just be filming himself talking into the camera with the woods behind him, and he'll hold up like a cardboard or piece of construction paper, red circle that he made, and he's holding it with his hand. He'll hold it over his shoulder, and he'll hold it up like, look, and he'll follow something and then put it back down. But he's acting dead serious.
I about pee every time I watch the video. It's just like,
he does it all the time. It's the funniest thing ever. And I'm like, oh, I can't tell if this guy is actually being genuine to try to get views or if he's just that. I don't think he even realized how funny he is. But it is hilarious. But he gets a lot of views. And he's just talking nonsense the whole time in the video. Not even about Bigfoot. But it's just great. When you see him like slowly raise that hand up and with a construction paper red circle holding over his head into the woods behind him, it is the funniest thing ever.
I never trust any red circle pictures. If anybody's going out on a hula hoop safari, I just like...
A hula hoop safari.
Guess what it looks like. If you have to put a big red circle over it, then how did you see it?
Right, yeah, you didn't see it.
Yeah.
It does, but yeah, with all the hoaxes and stuff, it really muddies the waters for people to...
It ruins it. It does.
To discover the truth, and I think that's what all of us, like, I'd say a majority of this community just wants the truth, and when you muddy that water and then you want it so bad, you're going to believe anything, and then it just throws a big wrench right into the spokes of the tires of the whole movement. It's frustrating. It is frustrating.
The only exception to that kind of stuff in my head would be like the Mountain Monsters guys, to where it's not real. Like, but I will say there are still people that die hard believe everything. We know those guys. We know the Mountain Monsters guys, and once they get away from everything, they're just people. They're just guys that go out and make a show.
I know, and it's fun.
It's fun, but there are people, because we had our booth next to at Crypticon.
Yep.
Crypticon. And there's people like die hard. Like, I'm glad you survived the Cherokee Devil, Buck. And like, because he was like possessed in one of the shows.
Oh.
And we're sitting there not trying not to laugh. Because this guy's just like, I'm so happy you're safe. Me and my wife prayed for you. And we were so scared for you. It's like,
oh, it's so great.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I'm jealous that I can't do a show, or we're not doing a show like that. Like,
are we?
Maybe one day, but it's just so. That show is great. I love. Yeah,
they're fun guys. They're good guys, but yeah, but there's people out there that I don't know. The red circles are just
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, but you understand why people do it, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist. Now, if Pat was one of those people, and he's certainly not. He's very scientific in his approach. He's very down to earth. He's very flesh and blood kind of. It may be an ape in the woods if it exists at all kind of guy, and he's not going to take advantage of that. But
right.
There are a lot of people out there. It only takes one time to get that attention and understand what it is that you have to do to get that attention, and they're going to keep doing it. And it's just going to progress and get worse and worse and worse as their popularity grows, and they can start making a little money. You get 75, 80,000 subscribers on a YouTube channel, and you're getting 40, 50, 60,000 views on a video. You do that over the course of a month, you're going to make money doing it. And then you got more money and more time to hoax more stuff, and then you just become a professional hoaxer. And there's not a ton of those out there, I don't think, but there have certainly been enough people in the community that we have seen rise and fall over the last decade or more. Rick Dyer, some of these other people that have made a living hoaxing people, and it just perpetuates that. So these red circle squatches that people see, even on a small scale, these people can get in these video or these Bigfoot groups just like I have on Facebook, and you go to 400 or 500 groups and post these red circle squatches, and people, oh man, that's awesome. Oh wow, I see it. Even if it's 5 in each group, it feeds that ego. It feeds whatever is missing in these people's lives that caused them to do that stuff in the first place, and then it just perpetuates it. And like you said, it's sometimes it's all in good fun, I guess. It's all, everybody says, why are you up in arms about it? Well, because if you take this seriously and you want these answers, and you really do have people on your show who have had real encounters, and you dive into this stuff and you look for evidence yourself, maybe even find stuff yourself. We were talking before we went on the air. I find stuff on my property and I'm hesitant to share it because I don't want to be accused of being a hoaxer.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I never say definitively. I think that's one of the things that people have hoax stuff, and if they're smart, they don't say definitives. Yes, Bigfoot did this. You put it out there and you kind of be mysterious about it and then let people draw their own conclusions. But, I found a footprint a week or so ago on my property in a creek on a hike, and I snapped some pictures of it and put my foot in for, some scale, and it looks like a footprint of a Sasquatch with 5 toes. I put it out there. I texted it to Doug Hycheck and said, Doug, help me out here. Am I crazy, or does this look like a Sasquatch footprint stepped into this creek? He's like, yeah. And he even pointed out where it looked like it was possibly a thumb. So it might have even been sort of a handprint. Doug always sees things I don't see. That's why I trust his opinion. So I'm like, yeah, I ended up putting it out on my social media and said, look, this is just what I found. I found some weird rocks stacked near it in the middle of the woods, weird possible stick structures and stuff like that. But I never said it was a Bigfoot. I don't know. I didn't see what stepped there. It could have been a bear track, could have been a weird bear track. Could have been something else. I don't know. It couldn't have been a footprint at all. It might have been footprint pareidolia for all I know.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly looks legitimate to me. But I don't put that stuff out there often because I'm weary, because I'm like, I'm calling this dude a hoaxer, and then, I found something 2 days later and I posted he does a Bigfoot podcast and he's finding Bigfoot.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Like we talked about that off air.
Yeah, how convenient, right?
Yeah, it's we couldn't ever post stuff like that, because you have a platform that is all based around this stuff, so you can't really go out and just, if you really do find stuff, you just can't because everybody's gonna be like, okay, yeah, you really, yeah, okay, Brian, okay, Justin, you really found Bigfoot stuff, and you talk about it 8 times a week, and yeah,
that, and you can't post it and say definitively this is a Bigfoot track, because you know well enough now, you got to be wary of everything, and you can't let your own mind tell you oh, this is what I'm so excited to see this. This is exactly what it is. I'm gonna share it with everyone. I'm always wary of those posts too. When you see them on social medias, this is definitively this is Bigfoot hair. We found a sample, just all that stuff. It's, you don't really quite know for sure. There's some people though that you do trust. I do have a few people out there that when they post stuff, it's okay, this is interesting. But it's not very often that you actually get people that have repeat.
Are you talking about your Wisconsin people?
Minnesota, yeah. You don't have repeat, occurrences, or a property that is active, and they can, I guess not repeat results, but they get little things that do happen quite often. But you have to be able to discern between those people that are authentic and then those that are, like what we've been talking about this whole time, that really like to push just for, and it might be monetary driven. I don't know. I mean, it's not, I guess that's none of my business, but some people, I guess that's how they make a little bit of living, or
a full
living, perhaps. Yes. Yeah, I know. But it's just rough in this whole field. Cause like I said, at the end of the day, we all just want the truth. We all want answers, and Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, all that unlocks a key to some other truth in the world, that some bigger thing that we're all seeking as well. Just the unexplainable things that happen every day in the world that you talk about, but it's a lot of people they don't live in that realm of understanding that these things are happening all the time, all around us. And but there's something there, and it drives it. It's curiosity that drives it, and it's just answers. I think we all want answers to that.
Yeah, I agree. And I've always, anything I post, if you see anything I've posted online, it's probably been through at least 5 or 6 people. Because I'll find something and I'll text it and say, look, I just found this. Like, tell me I'm not crazy. What do you see? I don't say I found this and it's a Bigfoot footprint, or I've had the apple bitten on my gifting stump here on the property and it looked like something picked the apple up like a person and bit it and then stuck it back down on a stick. I'm sending that picture to like 10 people saying, what does that look like? Well, it looks like you took a bite out of that apple. Okay, well, that's what I thought. Yeah. Could it have been an ungulate? Probably was. Could have been a deer. Could have been anything, right? I never say definitively. And I think that's what it goes back to, is when these people are saying these things definitively. And that's the thing that bothered me about Todd Standing so much, is I am the guy who can take you out and show you Sasquatch, right? No, you can't, dude. If you could, we would have more pictures and video and these other things that you claim that you have. You know, last year, Todd was trying his best to get me to come up and do an expedition with him last year over the summer. And I was considering going, but I just couldn't make it work with my schedule. And it dawned on me one day. I was like, this guy really wants me to come up there and have an experience. So I'll then come back and talk about it on my show and sort of validate, right? I would never do that. Even if I went up there and saw a frickin' Sasquatch, I said it to him. If I come up there and if one walks into the camp and sits down at the campfire, I'm still going to come back on my show and say, I believe your videos are fake, dude. Unless it looks just like the one that's in the video. Right. It's not going to change my mind, because I believe, like I think you said it earlier, Jay, I believe that people who do these things, some of those people have real experiences. And I've said that about Todd. I think he's had real experiences in the past. Maybe he still does on some level. I've had a couple of people on the show who did go on expeditions with him last year and have experiences. One of them said he saw a Sasquatch while he was from a distance while he was on an expedition with Todd. I believe those things can happen. It does not change the fact that the videos that he put out are not real.
Correct.
It's never going to change that. So, and it's the same thing with everybody that does that kind of stuff. You can have a real experience and then it's not enough, and you just have to keep pouring on and doing more and more and more. And I'm over it. There's so much stuff that we could and should be doing. It's like the DNA stuff. You know, that was one of the most popular parts of, I had so many people reaching out to me after I had you guys on and say, thank you for having somebody come on and explain and talk about DNA and how important it is. Justin, you collected DNA, so you have that experience and that background to talk intelligently about DNA collection, because people just think, oh, we'll just get DNA. You know, everybody says they've got hair and skin and all these other things that need to be tested, and it's not necessarily that simple. You know, and then you have people out there like she who shall not be named with her new project with DNA, and I know I've got Dogman DNA, and you know, again, you're a scientist, but you're talking in definitives, right? You know, what you have is dog DNA. That's all you have. It's literally dog DNA and something else. But, you know, you hear somebody with some credibility, with their doctor, saying these things, people buy into that and believe it. And you can't do that to people, especially when you're talking about something like this. There are no definitives. Nobody knows if these things are really real. People who come on the show and say, you know, I know you haven't had an experience like that, Brian. You haven't seen one. You don't know these things are real. I'm a knower, not a believer. I've seen one. Okay, I respect that. But for those of us who have not had that, and I'm still on the fence with 90% of the stuff we talk about on the show. I'd love to believe that these things are real. I think they probably can be and are. But then you have all this other noise out there, like, you know, and I invited Dr. Ketchum on the show numerous times. For 2 years, I've been inviting her on the show. She will not come on my show. She's doing other podcasts, but she won't, because she can't control the narrative on my show. It's just that simple. She knows I'm going to ask those questions. She know I'm going to call her out on some of these things. And I think it's not being rude. I'm not calling her character in to judge her character. I'm talking about the evidence that you're presenting and the statements that you're making definitively about something that nobody knows anything definitively about. It's just that simple.
What do we always say, Jay?
That the truth welcomes questions and lies run from questions.
I was going with the expert thing.
Oh.
That's a good one.
Oh, the expert thing? Oh,
There's
there's
no
no
such
such thing as a Sasquatch expert.
Yeah,
That's
if
right.
somebody starts talking in definitives, that's a Sasquatch expert, and there's no such thing.
Red flag. Red flag.
Yeah, not a red circle. That's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, the DNA stuff bothers me deeply, and it's just because, and I feel bad for the general public because it's just, it's a very specialized set of knowledge that I was lucky to have, because that's what I did professionally, is eDNA and environmental DNA and like sampling species and stuff like that. And you see somebody just hold this thing of Bigfoot fur like in their bare hands, and you're just like, well, that sample's contaminated. That'll never show anything, even if it was real. It's just like, my heart drops a little bit every time when somebody's like, Bigfoot fur, holding it this close to their mouth,
Grabbing it.
Like, oh my gosh, there was that one, I can't remember what show it was on, where it was on a tree, and I'm like, I seen him getting out gloves and all this stuff and like getting ready to do it. I'm like, and then one of the other guys goes in and just pulls it right off the tree with bare hands, and I'm like, well, that's gonna come back inconclusive.
Oh, yeah. But only people like you would understand that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Like, we had sites, and keep in mind, we would be dressed like to the teeth to do this DNA collection stuff and still get inconclusive sites because we contaminated it with our own bodies. I mean, we're constantly shedding DNA, but when you're that close to this little tiny sample, your DNA can really overpower it pretty freaking quick. But is there any videos? And we talk about like the Patterson Gimlin film. We talk about the Freeman stuff. But is there any of these smaller videos that we see all the time that you feel is a little more credible? Oh, and real quick, I was gonna say I had an encounter. I would not believe in Bigfoot if I didn't see one. I never expect anybody else to, because it's something that's just, why? Like, why would you? Like, so I've always been like that. Like, when people say they don't believe or they're really against believing, that's more what that's for, is like, I don't, like, it doesn't bother me. I know I had my confirmation, but I get it. It's a hard pill to swallow to imagine an 8 to 9 foot tall North American primate running around right on the edge of civilization. Mm-hmm. It's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, is there any of these videos that you see that really stick out to you as being maybe more probable than more hoaxy?
Yeah, I think there was one that was pretty popular maybe a year or so ago, and I don't know if it was Russia or something. It was like something that was running, and I think it was a father and his kid were out in the woods doing whatever, and this thing drops down for a second or two and goes on all fours. Very chimp-like behavior. Now, that one stuck out to me. My initial response to that one was, that looks legitimate to me. And I've had that situation with one of the Todd Stanning's videos. That one where that thing's running up a hill, behind him, and it's kind of blurry. You don't get to see a whole lot of detail or whatnot, but that incline is really steep. And I know Todd did a breakdown on this channel of, he's confirming his own evidence, obviously. So let's take that with a grain of salt when we start talking about it. But that's a pretty steep incline, and I think he broke it down. And I've talked to other people who have looked at that, and this thing's basically running faster up that hill than a regular person could run down it. Right?
Oh wow!
So that's pretty compelling to me.
Tough to fake.
Everything outside of that, I think the only thing that really sticks out to me is one of the bigger ones is the Freeman footage. If you see the video as it is online now, it's not that impressive. But, Doug and Michael Freeman, Paul Freeman's son, sent me their version, the non-interlaced version, where they broke it down, they've frame by framed, they've cleaned it up, they've stabilized it, they've taken away the interlacing. It's just the original film zoomed and broken down. When you see that, it's pretty impressive to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it looks like this thing is real, and it looks like it walks across this path and it takes a baby off of a tree or a toddler or whatever. And it looks legitimate to me. So, and then you couple that with the footprint evidence that was there in addition to the film. And again, you take the totality of the circumstances. I believe that is, and I didn't believe it necessarily was real until I had the conversation with Michael after he wrote the Freeman files. And when Doug Hychek and Cliff Brackman, Cliff and I have talked about it too. Cliff broke down the film and did his own non-interlaced version of the film as well. So, and he's pretty convinced, as he can be. I mean, obviously, Cliff's like, it's video. It's subjective. No matter what we do, how you break it down, there's only so much there that you can take a look at. So it's never going to be a 100% given. But if you take that, plus the footprint evidence is there, that same footprint has been cast by, I think, Jeff Meldrum, other places hundreds of miles away, and you compare the two side by side, it is clearly the same print from the same purported Sasquatch, right? So you put all that stuff together, that's pretty compelling to me. Mm-hmm. But as far as the other videos and photos that are out there, there's a few, like I said, here and there that I've seen that make me say, that's possible. But it's difficult because there's not a whole lot to go with it. You don't have one-to-one correlation. It's just this or whatever. You know, you see those where it starts out and it just doesn't make sense. They're filming something that just doesn't make sense, and you're wondering, like, why are
you sitting here filming the back of your barn? Mm-hmm.
Right. My brain goes to, why would you be filming video of that right now? And then, boom, something runs into the frame or something pops out from behind a tree. Mm-hmm. You know, that's clear red flags to me. And there's a lot of that out there. And who's to say some of those may be legitimate, you know, if you knew the backstory. Right. You know, if you had the person in front of you saying, well, I was filming because I heard something. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And yeah, so that's all possible, but it's hard because there's not a ton out there. And I think the majority of the stuff, when I talked to Cliff, he had a guy come into the North American Bigfoot Center and show him some trail cam stuff. And it's pretty compelling. We'll never see it, because the guy didn't want it released. He doesn't want to show it to anybody. He just showed it to Cliff, you know.
And how many times personal confirmation? He wanted his personal confirmation. That's it.
Yeah, and that's it. And those are the ones you really want to see, because they're not out there screaming it to the rafters that this is my friend Nefertiti or whatever that comes to visit every week, right? Those are the people you really want to see that evidence, because they don't have a dog in the fight. And, you know, but we'll never see it because they don't want anything out of it. It's just the personal confirmation. Yeah, it looks like a Bigfoot. Okay, that's what I thought. Appreciate it. And they're on to their life, right? There's a ton of that out there.
Have you ever seen I can't remember if it was a Monster Quest episode or if it was Paranormal Fact or Faked, with the Bigfoot running across, like, right to left on this big hill slope out in Washington?
I think I've seen that,
so
yes.
I think a lot of people have seen it, but they did a whole episode. I can't remember which show did a whole episode on it, but they actually got the family that was there, and, you know, they went to the actual spot and everything, and they had I can't remember, like an Olympic runner try to do it in the same time, and he was always like 2 or 3 times longer than the figure.
Wow. And
he wasn't wearing a costume. Mm-hmm. That was one that always just kind of, to me, because the family, you know, they went to the actual spot. They had still the same camera, so they could do all that testing and stuff like that. But there's just not like a lot you could really look at and be that. But that one is always, I don't even remember what show that was on, but that one always stuck out to me because all the data was there. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have, for our show format, we won't do stories that I can't find actual, like, reports for and stuff, like
tangible evidence,
like hearsay. Yeah. If it's all just hearsay, like one time in an unnamed town in Indiana, there was a mud mermaid.
Sources say.
Like, where's the sources?
Right, exactly.
Give me a newspaper article and we'll do it. Like,
right.
Just show me one newspaper article and I'll do it. But yeah, but I like that one. But there's just not, like you're saying, like, there's just not tons out there you can look at and be like, well, that can't be a guy in a suit, or that can't be CGI. And that's the other stuff now. Oh, my gosh, is all that, you know.
With
CGI and video editing and all that, like.
AI stuff now.
Oh, I'm done with the AI. I'm done with the stupid AI stuff.
Wait till we start having AI Squatch videos.
Do you know how many pictures of AI monster fish I get sent a week through this?
Monster fish. Yeah. How many AI ungulates do you get sent to you?
That was why Jay was laughing. We just had a fight about the word ungulate, like, literally yesterday. and you said it.
I said
I said ungulate, and Jay's like, nobody talks like that,
No,
Justin. Nobody talks like that.
I just started laughing because he described something. He's like when you compare like an ungulate to, and I'm just started laughing. I'm like an ungulate, like only like someone in the biology field would ever like use that word in a conversation, and then then turns around the next day, or you just said ungulate. I'm like, oh, you're right.
Everybody says it. You're just dumb.
Damn
I know,
you, Justin.
I know. I'm not in this. This is not my normal field. I'm used to like bowling stuff.
But yeah, sorry to cut you off, but So like, and then the Freeman footage is amazing, and then like to me, I don't know, the Patterson Gimlin film is the most single analyzed piece of film in world history, and that includes the JFK assassination. And nobody has a definitive answer. That to me right there sings choirs about it. Mm-hmm. If the FBI has spent like what we did that episode, what did we talk about? The FBI spent like 2,000 hours analyzing it or something, some big crazy stupid number, and they came out inconclusive, and it's just like,
nah, that's the most authentic footage, I think, like long-term footage where it's in the frame the longest that you point to as being real.
And only 6 guys have claimed to be in the costume, and
right, yeah,
that's always a fun part when it's like every couple of years a new guy will come out and be like, it was me, I was Patty. Do you have the costume?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've always pointed to was nobody could ever produce the costume itself, right? Of course, Hieronymus said that he gave it back to Roger Patterson, and of course they probably took it somewhere and burned it. If that were the case, obviously you want to get rid of the evidence of your hoax. But the guy who claimed here in North Carolina, actually, the costume designer that did all these costumes, and he's done that ridiculous video, and I think it might have been in the Making of Bigfoot with Greg Long, where they do this recreation, and he has this weird arm where it's ridiculous. He could never come out. If he would just have came out and said, okay, you made the suit, right? Why wouldn't you just make another one?
Just make another one.
Why wouldn't you make the exact Patty suit and just lay it out there for the cameras and say, this isn't the exact one, but it's the one I made right after that, and this puts it to rest. But that never happened.
Right.
And yeah, so it is compelling to me that it has stood the test of time. One of the things that I found really interesting when I was talking to Ty Prescott yesterday from the Sasquatch Archives, and he has this plethora of just tons of information on Sasquatch, right? He got all of John Green's stuff that John Green had. And part of what he's found in there, and I'm actually going to put together a show. Ty said I could do it. He was gracious enough to allow me to use some of the footage. He's got an interview that John Green had from a radio station with Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin like 5 days after they filmed the Patterson Gimlin film.
Oh, wow.
It is probably the first real interview on any kind of media that's documented, and them telling the story. And this guy's asking him, he's pressing him on these questions. So it'll be really cool. I want to break it down. I haven't really done it yet, to look at some of the newer interviews with Bob, because obviously Roger Patterson passed away years ago. Mm-hmm. Bob's still around. So I want to look at some of the differences, because one of the big things that comes out in the documentation that he got from John Green was everybody thinks that Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were in Bluff Creek for like a month, right, before they filmed this. They were there for 9 days. That's all. They were there for 9 days before this was filmed. And that's one of the things I think even Bob has said over the years that they've been in there for a month, because it just kind of got picked up and ran with. It's like that game of telephone, right? Somebody said it or they misheard it, and now it's like the narrative that, oh, they were in there for a month. No, they weren't. They were on horseback. What the hell are they going to feed a horse, 2 horses for a month in the back country? You can't bring that much food in for a horse. 9 days is probably topping it, right? So just little things and little nuances like that I find interesting about the Patterson Gimlin film is going back and taking a look at some of those interviews earlier on. What did they say 5 days after it happened versus what Bob's saying 50 years later? Those kind of things. But I find it compelling. I think it's very interesting that we're still talking about it
right.
From 1967, right?
Did you say that's something you're putting together, those interviews? And that, is that what you said a project you're working on?
Yeah, I'm going to pull that audio from Todd, and I'm just going to put together it's only, I think it's about 20 or 25 minutes. It's not the full interview, but it is
it's a chunk of it.
Yeah, it's 20 or 25 minutes of them talking about what happened. And it's literally, I think it was 5 or 6 days after they filmed the PG film.
Wow, I'm really looking forward to hearing that.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'd never heard it, but I
have.
Todd and I were talking about it yesterday, and he has permission to use it, so he's going to give me permission to use it on the show. So I'm going to pull that audio and pump it up a little bit and do some production and get it, where it's a lot more listenable, because it was recorded on radio, in 1967.
1967 radio.
So yeah, everyone listening, pay attention and keep up with Sasquatch Odyssey and Brian, and I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah. We're going to share that when that comes out.
Do you think that the Patterson-Gimlin film would be looked at differently if they weren't out there making a documentary about Bigfoot?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That was the other thing that we talked about, is a lot of people don't realize that Patterson actually finished his documentary. Most people think that it stopped once they got the footage, but they did eventually finish the documentary, and there's actually 2 versions of it out there. There's the Roger Patterson version, where it's all pro Sasquatch and it's all real, and then there's the BBC version where there's, I think Napier's on there actually kind of poo-pooing the film because he never really believed that it was real. So there's actually 2 versions, and Todd Prescott has copies of both of those.
Wow.
You'll never see the Patterson version because Patricia Patterson and the family controls that. Todd has a copy of it.
Wow.
It'll never see the light of day.
Yeah.
But the BBC version he has, and he's actually released that. I think it's on the Sasquatch archives now. You can actually go and see the BBC version. But the Patterson version is out there. It does exist.
I have to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know that was, that's something I never really thought of. The documentary that they were there filming. I never even thought about them finishing it.
I don't know if I would have. I'd have been like, all right, that's it. That's a wrap.
Well, if you think about it, that's when I had Dr. Meldrum has talked about it. When I had him on the show, that's one of, if you ask him what got him into Bigfoot, that's what it is, because he saw it at the theaters, I think in 68 when he was 10 years old or whatever. So that's what sort of pulled him in, was the actual documentary that Patterson and Gimlin filmed. And then they took it around the movie theaters. But you didn't see it, or you don't see it, unless you were there, right? It got shown over the next year or whatever, and then it was gone. It's not like it went straight to DVD, right? Yeah. If you miss the new Batman movie at the theater, you can watch it on Netflix in a month, or you can pick up the DVD at the Redbox. That's not how it worked with the Patterson-Gimlin documentary, but there are copies of it, like I said, and Todd has those copies. And I found it interesting. Just the story of how he got it, is a pretty interesting story in and of itself. But yeah, I may do something with that. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Todd and see if, what I can use off the archives and what I can't, but we'll see.
Exciting stuff moving forward. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
So we're at the hour mark. If you're good.
Oh yeah, I'm good.
My brain's still melting. Sorry guys, everybody at home. All the listeners know I just had a baby, and he hasn't slept yet.
Neither of you.
Neither have I. I did sleep this morning a little bit, and that's why I'm in trouble.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But no, thank you, Brian, for coming on. This has been epic.
Yeah, this has been awesome.
We'll have to have you back on because this is a fun. An hour just flew by after a half hour of technical difficulties.
Oh gosh, that was awful.
Yeah, I got to make some calls.
Good times had by all. I hope you kept your receipt for that.
Yep, I bought the warranty, so
good.
Gonna go over there and throw it through the window. But no, thank you. Will you just? I know once again. Will you just tell everybody where they find all your stuff and everything like that?
Yes, Sasquatch Odyssey, Paranormal Odyssey, True Crime Odyssey, all the Odysseys, all the podcasts. The best, you can get them anywhere you listen to podcasts, anywhere you're listening right now. You can find them. All you got to do is search it. And ParanormalWorldProductions.com has all the shows there, all the blogs, all that stuff. So you can go to ParanormalWorldProductions.com and check us out there.
So everybody at home, I'll have all the links in the description like normal. So you can just click on them and get there and check them out. Do it. So, Brian, before we go, we have a tradition how we end this. On the count of 3, we'll all scream bye, and then it'll be over. So if you're good with that, we'll do it. All right. 3, 2, 1. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Cryptids of the Corn podcast.
Please share with a friend you think would like us. It's the best way to help our show grow.
Leave a comment, rate us, a 5-star review, and remember, there is always extra content on Patreon/cryptidsofthecorn.com.
And don't forget, stay magical.